Here's what I see constantly. Someone opens Claude, types a question, reads the answer, closes the tab. Maybe they use it to rewrite an email. Maybe they ask it to explain a concept. And then they say AI is overhyped. That's not using Claude. That's using a search engine with better grammar. What I'm going to show you today is what it looks like when Claude is infrastructure. Not a tab you open, but the system your entire operation runs through. Content, product development, federal contracting, teaching. One tool, one operator, no team. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how that works and you'll be able to map it to your own workflow today. Here are the 5 tracks. I'll go through each one. Before I go deep on any of these, I want you to see the full picture first. 5 tracks, all running simultaneously, all running through Claude. I'm a solo founder. I run an AI automation company. I publish geopolitical and defense analysis. I'm building a federal contracting track as a service-disabled veteran-owned small business. And I teach networking at a college. There's no team behind this, no agency, no VA. The reason that's possible isn't that I'm working more hours. It's that I designed a system where Claude handles the connective tissue between all of it. The translation layer between raw thinking and finished output. That's what a stack is. Not a list of prompts, a system with inputs, outputs, and repeatable flows. Here's what each track actually looks like. Let me show you how a single idea becomes 4 pieces of content without starting over. It starts with a raw input. For me, that's usually a breaking geopolitical development, an MSP engineering problem I ran into, or an AI tool I just evaluated. I drop that into Claude with context about my voice, my audience, and the platform I'm publishing to first. That becomes a Substack post, full analysis, my take, sourced and structured. That's the anchor piece. Everything else derives from it. From that same draft, Claude pulls the core argument and restructures it as a YouTube script, not a summary, a rewrite for a different medium, tighter, more visual, built around slides instead of paragraphs. Then the same core idea gets compressed again into platform-specific social posts. Different hooks for X, LinkedIn, and Facebook, because the same line doesn't work the same way in all 3. One idea, 4 outputs, maybe 90 minutes of total time including the recording. The reason this works is that I'm not prompting Claude from scratch each time. I have a documented voice, a documented format for each platform, and a documented editorial structure. Claude isn't guessing what I want. It's executing against a spec I built once and reuse every time. This is my actual Substack format. Every post follows this structure. Claude knows it. I don't brief it every time. That's the difference between using AI as a tool and running it as infrastructure. And I want to draw a line here. This isn't about Claude writing my content. The analysis, the takes, the sourcing, that's mine. What Claude handles is the translation between my thinking and the finished output. My audience follows me for the judgment. Claude makes sure the judgment gets packaged correctly every time. As an MSP engineer, I spent years watching Level 1 technicians open tickets, read the same error message, follow the same troubleshooting trees, and escalate the same predictable issues to Layer 2 technicians. Every MSP has this problem. Nobody had it fixed in a way that actually fit how MSPs operate, so I built it. The product is an AI-powered ticket triage engine. It ingests tickets from ConnectWise or any other PSA that you use, applies remediation logic before a human touches them, routes based on issue type and urgency, and flags escalations automatically. The goal is reducing mean time to resolution and cutting level 2 escalation volume. I built that as a solo founder with no development team. Claude was my co-engineer on the entire stack. Here's what that actually looked like in practice. I'd come to Claude with an engineering problem, not write me some code. A real problem. How do I structure the remediation logic so it's extensible as new ticket categories emerge? How do I handle the ConnectWise webhook payload when the schema isn't documented cleanly? How do I build the Terraform modules so an MSP can deploy this without touching the underlying infrastructure? Claude didn't just answer those questions. It helped me think through the architecture, flagged edge cases I hadn't considered, and produced working code I could test immediately. I'm an engineer. I know what MSPs need. Because I lived it. I know what the ticket patterns look like, what level 1 technicians actually do, what makes an escalation legitimate versus lazy. Claude can't know that. What Claude did was accelerate the translation of my domain knowledge into working software. That's the right relationship. You bring the expertise, Claude brings the execution speed. The product is live. I have a landing page, a working demo, and warm leads in the MSP space I'm actively working. I also built a full SBIR Phase I proposal targeting DoD at $275,000 because the same triage logic applies to federal IT environments. A solo founder, one tool, a commercial product, and a federal contracting track running in parallel. That's what makes this stack possible. And to be clear about what Claude didn't do, it didn't generate the product idea. It didn't know what MSPs needs. It didn't validate the market or write the go-to market strategy from nothing. Every one of those things required domain expertise I built over years of actual MSP engineering. Claude compressed the time between idea and execution. It didn't replace the experience that made the idea worth building. Most people who build AI products think about one market, commercial customers, SaaS subscriptions, maybe some enterprise deals. I built a second track in parallel targeting the federal government directly. That means SAM.gov registrations, cage code, UEI number, SBIR solicitation research, proposal writing, and understanding how the DoD acquisition process actually works. None of that is simple. All of it is navigatable if you have the right system. I'm a service-disabled veteran-owned small business. That's a federal certification that opens specific contracting vehicles civilian companies can't access. It took work to get it, and it creates real competitive advantage in the federal market. Claude is threaded through every part of how I manage that track. Let me be specific. The SBIR Phase I proposal I built targets a DoD solicitation at $275,000. An SBIR proposal has a specific structure, technical approach, commercialization plan, company qualifications, budget justification. Each section has formatting requirements, page limits, and evaluation criteria you have to write against explicitly. I use Claude to draft, structure, and refine every section, not by dumping a prompt and accepting the output, by working iteratively, feeding it a solicitation language, the evaluation criteria, my technical approach, and my commercialization data, and then pressure testing the draft against the reviewer's perspective. The result is a proposal that reads like it came from a team. It came from one person with the right system. Same thing with SAM.gov navigation. Federal registrations have expiration dates, renewal requirements, and representation fields that have to stay current. Claude helps me track what's due, draft the language for representations and certifications, and research which NACS codes apply to new contract opportunities. Contract vehicle research is where that gets particularly powerful. Understanding which IDIQSs, GWACs, and set-aside vehicles are accessible to a service-disabled veteran small business in the IT and AI space. That's hours of research compressed into a focused session. I'm putting my actual registration data on screen because I want you to understand this isn't theoretical. This is a live federal business with active registrations, an active proposal pipeline, and a certification that took real work to earn. The veteran angle matters here too. I'm a Navy veteran. I operated fated systems on a USS Peleliu, transited the Strait of Hormuz, worked in TACWAN 11. That background informs how I think about defense applications for this technology, and it gives me credibility in federal conversations that a civilian founder can't manufacture. Claude doesn't give me that credibility. It helps me deploy it efficiently. And I'll say this plainly. The federal sales cycle is long. The compliance burden is real. And if you don't have genuine domain expertise in the problem you're solving for government customers, no amount of AI tooling will save your proposal. What Claude does is remove the administrative and writing friction so that the expertise you do have comes through clearly. I've spent the last several minutes showing you everything Claude can do inside this operation. Now I'm going to tell you what it can't do, because if I don't say this explicitly, someone's going to walk away with the wrong idea. Claude cannot give you domain expertise. It cannot give you 15 years of MSP engineering experience that told me exactly where the ticket triage problem lived. It cannot give you the Navy operational background that makes a defense-focused AI pitch credible to a DoD reviewer. It cannot give you the relationships, the certifications, or the hard-won judgment that makes any of this work. What Claude does is compress the distance between what you know and what you can produce. If what you know is shallow, Claude produces shallow work faster. That's not a superpower. That's just more noise at a higher velocity. These three things are still entirely on you. Domain expertise is the knowledge you built through years of actual work in a field. I know MSP environments because I lived in them. I know federal acquisition because I went through the process myself. I know geopolitical analysis because I read primary sources, have first-hand operational experience in relevant theaters, and have been studying this for years. Claude can accelerate how I deploy that knowledge. It cannot synthesize it from nothing. Relationship capital is every warm lead, every former colleague, every professional connection that makes a cold outreach not cold. My MSP sales pipeline exists because I worked at ECW Computers and DNS and Medicus IT. Those relationships are mine. Claude helped me write the outreach. It didn't build the trust that makes someone open the email. Original judgment is the hardest one to articulate, but the most important. Every take I publish on Substack, every architectural decision I make on the triage product, every call I make about what federal solicitation is worth pursuing, that requires judgment I develop through experience and failure. Claude can pressure test my judgment. It cannot replace it. The people who get the most out of Claude are the ones who bring the most to it. That's not a limitation of the tool. That's how leverage works. I've said this twice already in the video, and I'm saying it one more time because it's the thing I want you to remember. A tool is something you pick up when you need it and put down when you're done. Infrastructure is what everything else runs on. You don't think about your internet connection every time you open a browser. You design your setup once. You maintain it, and it runs. That's the relationship I have with Claude. I design the system once. The voice documents, the format specs, the workflow templates, the skills files that tell Claude exactly how to handle each context. I maintain it as my needs evolve, and then it runs. That took time to build. It was worth every hour, and nothing I showed you today was possible without the expertise I brought to the system first. That's the stack: content pipeline, product development, federal ops, teaching prep, daily decision support. One tool, one operator, built intentionally. If you want to see the triage product I mentioned, the link is in the description. If you want to follow the geopolitical analysis I publish, Substack is also in the description. Next video, I'm going deep in on the AWS SysOps series, what cloud operations actually looks like when you're running infrastructure for real clients, not just passing a cert exam. Subscribe if you want it when it drops. I'll see you there.